Hi, today I'd like to share my favorite sustainable, responsible investing related books with you. I hope these books will help give you an overview of the values and approach to sustainability, business, economics, and demonstrate how businesses can be financially sustainable, personally rewarding, and healthier for the planet and all its inhabitants. My first recommendation is Let My People Go Surfing: The Education of a Reluctant Businessman by Yvon Chouinard, who is an American rock climber, environmentalist, and an outdoor industry billionaire businessman. But I don't think he wanted to be a billionaire, so hence the reluctant businessman. In this memoir, the founder of Patagonia reveals how he wove his personal values into the fabric of his company from the very beginning. Chouinard wanted Patagonia not only to cater to other rock climbing and surfing enthusiasts like himself, but also to govern itself by the highest standards for environmental sustainability and social responsibility. So it's a great example of corporate social responsibility. Although he talks about the philosophies that make Patagonia the company of integrity that it is today, what is most insightful is Chouinard's personal story. From childhood, he developed a passion for the outdoors, and when he was 18 years old, he developed and sold his own rock climbing equipment from the back of his car. Clearly, he was determined to live and work by his own values. This book is an inspiring example of how companies can build their business models around sustainable, responsible investing values and be incredibly successful in material terms. If you visit Patagonia's website, you will see their homepage includes activism, which is quite unusual. Since 1985, Patagonia has pledged 1% of sales to the preservation and restoration of the natural environment, which is pretty remarkable. Their core values are also such an interesting read and include use business to protect nature and cause no unnecessary harm. So simple and powerful. A client of mine told me a great story that they had a worn wear tour across Europe and stopped by his office in Shoreditch, London to repair Patagonia clothing for free. Patagonia's brand is of course about repair and reuse. So it's just lovely to see this level of concrete congruence between stated values and actions. It's a very inspiring read. My second recommendation for you is Building Social Business: The New Kind of Capitalism That Serves Humanity's Most Pressing Needs by Mohammed Yunus, who is a Bangladeshi social entrepreneur and economist. In the author's words, poverty is not created by poor people. It is created by the system we have built, the institutions we have designed, and the concepts we have formulated. While Mohammed Yunus was teaching economics at Chittagong University in the 70s in Bangladesh, he found it difficult to ignore the hunger and poverty all around him. So he founded a bank for the poor who needed small amounts of capital to start their own businesses, as no banks back then would lend money to the financially poor, leaving them vulnerable to loan sharks and effectively enslaving them to very high interest rates for life. His work won him the Nobel Prize in 2006, and he is called the inventor of microlending. His book notes that a large number of beggars also took advantage of the loan. People are keen to work and have their own sense of purpose and dignity, he observed. This part touched me deeply, as seeing begging, especially where I grew up in India, or seeing exploitation of the financially poor, really makes me feel quite sad on many levels. A social business is one in which the owners are motivated to solve a social problem, such as unemployment or malnutrition. Profits are plowed back into the company instead of being paid out as dividends. And unlike a charity or NGO, which has to rely on donations to keep running, a social business is profit-making and therefore financially sustainable. Sounds really win-win-win all the way to me. Social businesses make investment decisions based on the potential effectiveness of a social cause rather than just profit. In this book, Yunus explains the concept of a social business, gives examples of existing social businesses, and shares tips on how you can get involved in this movement. Do check out his TED Talk too. Yunus talks about how we humans don't only care about maximizing profit. In reality, we get fulfillment from many other sources besides money. Kind of ties in really well with socially responsible investing, where you are interested not just in maximum return, you are also being pro-social and caring about other aspects of harm to the environment, community, workers, etc. A good example of a social enterprise, as we call it in the UK, is The Big Issue, which helps people who are homeless or vulnerably housed to earn a legitimate income. The third book I have for you, I can't find it, is on my Kindle. And it is Dear Chairman, Boardroom Battles and the Rise of Shareholder Activism by Jeff Gramm, a hedge fund co-founder and Columbia Business School professor. If you've ever wondered what goes on at boardroom meetings, or you want to understand the G in ESG, corporate governance, you'll find this book quite helpful. Graham's book focuses on 8 investor letters from famous investors, including Warren Buffett and Carl Icahn, that sum up some of the great shareholder battles in the history of American business from the 1920s to more recent times. Battles between shareholders as the owner of companies against some managers who tended to run the companies in their own interest instead. In the early 80s, you could say that big passive investors were very checked out. And now we've seen more recently Larry Fink of BlackRock, a large player in the passive investments fund space, writing clearly in his Dear CEO letter that climate risk is investment risk. Gramm also talks about shareholder activism at its worst, when hedge funds manipulate land grabs at the expense of a company's long-term prospects. He has a very engaging storytelling style of writing and turns a topic that could be quite drab and dry into quite an interesting set of stories. The fourth book on my list today is Impact, Reshaping Capitalism to Drive Real Change by Sir Ronald Cohen. Sir Cohen is known as the father of British venture capital. If you want to learn more about impact investing, this is a great book to read, and by a British author too. ESG is a word you hear quite a lot now, and impact investing is different in 2 specific ways, he explains. Impact investing is not just about avoiding negative impact like ESG investing does, but to create a positive one. And it insists on measuring the impact created. The book is filled with examples from all over the world, the US, UK, Africa, India, Israel, including Grameen Bank from this book and Patagonia. The book also includes examples of stars on the scene, like Japan's government pension investment fund, the world's largest pension fund with $1.5 trillion under management, that allocated 10% of its stock holdings in 2017 to environmentally and socially responsible investments, which is huge. He explains if most savers of pensions exercise influence on how they want their portfolios invested, pension fund trustees would have to offer more options. Financing of the UN SDGs, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, aimed to hit a number of targets like water for all and protection of human rights by 2030 would need an investment of an additional $30 trillion. And what I like is he shows how this is possible if the private sector could fill that gap. Hopefully we see some examples of impact unicorns soon, something Sir Cohen talks about in his book. Impact unicorns are startups valued at over $1 billion that promise to improve 1 billion lives. I found the book really interesting, and once I started reading it, I couldn't stop. And as you can see, I have my sticky notes thingy next to me. The book really grabs you in, so read it. The fifth book on my list is Doughnut Economics, 7 Ways to Think Like a 21st Century Economist by Kate Raworth. I might be pronouncing it wrong. Kate is an English economist working for the University of Oxford and the University of Cambridge. The book has a large number of positive reviews on Amazon when I had a quick peek. It shares a vision for a system that balances human needs without exhausting the planet. But it's not just a hippie approach. It actually already works. The image of the donut is used to share just that, how we can aim for balance and meet needs like food, housing, healthcare, while ensuring we do not place too much pressure on Earth's life-supporting systems, such as a stable climate and fertile soil. My economics professor in college nearly put me off the subject, so don't let that word economics put you away. Kate writes in really plain, non-jargony English and helps you understand how 21st century economics needs to move away from outdated ways of just chasing endless GDP growth or profit, which isn't meeting needs. I mean, we have really high income inequality and ecological collapse, to a new economic mindset focused on balance. I asked my friend Andy to write a couple of lines because he loves this book, and he said, "The greatness of this book lies in the simplicity of Kate's vision of how economic transformation can sustainably serve all of us. Not just a brilliant theory, but a practical roadmap to creating thriving cities, already implemented in Amsterdam to build resilience post-COVID-19. Doughnut Economics is an inspirational survival manual." So thanks, Andy. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps other viewers to discover my channel so they can also benefit from this information. If you bought one of my recommendations, let me know in the comments below. And if you have a book to recommend, let me know in the comments below. Those were all my SRI related book recommendations for you. I'm Chouinard, founder of Conscious Money. Thank you for watching.